In this video, we're going to be talking about a handful of optional rules or optional things you can use in your D&D campaigns that are going to be within this book that we are working on. The first one is known as character flaws. It doesn't seem like something you'd want to take, but sometimes it makes things a little bit more realistic. It's also a pretty short and simple one. But then again, remember, these are all optional. They're not required to be used if you want to use stuff in this book. A flaw, or also known as a flawed skill, is one skill that a character is meant to be bad at. How a flawed skill works is it kind of works in tandem with your proficiency bonus, but it doesn't get worse as you go on, because that would make it kind of unfair. It gets a little bit better, but it still is kind of bad, but it gets a little bit better as you're going on and going up with the levels. So how it works is when you have your proficiency bonus of +2, then your flawed skill would be a -6. That is a lot. That is because how this works is you take whatever your proficiency bonus is and you subtract 8 from it, and that's how much your flawed skill bonus is. So when you have a proficiency bonus of +2, your flawed skill is -6. 3 -5, 4 -4, 5 -3, and then 6, which is the max proficiency bonus, your flawed skill is a -2. Most people might be thinking, why would you want to put a hindrance on your character? The point of playing D&D, or wanting to play D&D, is to have this character who's good at a lot of things and who isn't really bad at something. I do agree with it, but it also kind of puts a little bit of an aspect of realism when all of a sudden you're playing a character who is traditionally extremely bad at this skill. Not everyone is good with nature. Some people are horrible with what would be a nature check or a perception check if you have a character that is just that has bad eyesight, or if they just a character who is horrible with animals for some reason, even they don't know why, but it's just horrible, they would have a flaw in animal handling. The way this works is when if you want to use this rule, it's recommended a whole party takes this rule, and every character has one flawed skill of their choice that is not something they are proficient in. The next variant rule that we're going to talk about is a little bit of a longer one. It's called prosthetic limbs. Sometimes a creature has lost a limb and has survived losing said limb. In places where magic isn't as strong and spells to regenerate limbs are extremely difficult to come by, which especially is true at early levels, some creatures can choose to get a prosthetic limb and use simple magic to connect the nerves. If you're missing a limb, then you can use this chart that I have in this book. We have several charts to see the effects of what's happening when your limbs are missing. So say that if you're missing an arm, you can't use weapons that take 2 hands to wield, and to cast spells with a somatic component, it becomes more difficult, and you have to make a saving throw using your spell casting stat. The DC is 10 to be able to even cast a spell that has a somatic component. Unless you have a feature that says otherwise that you can ignore somatics, like the Sorcerer's Subtle spell. If you're missing both of your arms, you cannot use any hands you cannot use any of either of your hands because you don't have any for any weapons, and you cannot cast somatic component spells unless you have, like I said earlier, with sorcerers with their subtle spell. If you're missing a leg, your movement is halved and you have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. And if you're missing 2 legs, you have a 10 foot of crawling speed and you have disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Similar, and if you have a high movement, losing both your legs sucks because it's set to 10. If you have a low movement, say you're a dwarf with only 25 foot movement speed. They have 25, right? Yeah, they have 25. Dwarf with 25 foot moving speed. Half movement, that puts you down to 10 anyways with 1 leg. So there's really no difference for a dwarf missing 1 leg or 2 legs in terms of statistics, other than the fact that you crawl everywhere instead of walking everywhere. Getting a prosthetic limb is dependent on the material. They can come in 4 different materials. and they are unbreakable as they are magically enchanted they are magically enchanted to be unbreakable and to move just as normal arm or limb would. The limbs can be made out of wood, plastic, metal, or gemstone, and the cost of them depends on the material. So a wood is 200 gold pieces, plastic is 1,000, metal is 3,000, gemstone is 10,000. They're expensive, but there's more benefits other than just having a different material for the arm. So, say you have one of your arms is a prosthetic. There is augmentations you can get to the arms to also give you a benefit to having a prosthetic limb instead of just you now have a prosthetic limb instead of a regular one. You can get benefits depending on what it's made out of. So if your arm is made out of wood, you can get the augmentations for a collapsing shield and an arcane blasting arm. Collapsing shield allows you to don or doff a non-magical shield as a free action, and the blasting arm allows you to cast the Eldritch Blast cantrip. And in addition, you also get one wizard first level spell you can cast once without expending a spell slot. In order to get augmentations, you have to spend gold pieces quite a bit in order to add these augmentations onto your limbs. But they also add high benefits, but also depends, you got to really choose if you know this chart well. So those are the two you can get for wood. If you want to get plastic, you would be getting either grappling hook or the arcane blasting arm. The grappling hook allows you to make an attack roll at a range of 30 feet. Then you can spend your bonus action to pull yourself to that location. This can hold up to 250 pounds in total. So it's good for getaways and also good for quickly getting to a target. So because it's essentially a bonus action dash as long as you have attacked that target. As long as you've already attacked that target with it. Metal gets the grappling hook and collapsing shield, and the gemstone arm gets the arcane blasting arm and one that only the gemstone arm can get, prismatic recovery. With prismatic recovery, you gain a hit point pool equal to your total level times 2. You can use a bonus action to expend as many hit points from this pool as you wish. You regain all expended points from the pool after finishing a long rest. It is essentially the Paladin's Lay on Hands. This is really good at low levels, but it is also, remember, this is a gemstone arm, so this is 10,000 gold pieces to even get this, and another 1,200 gold pieces to then get the prismatic recovery augmentation on top of it. That's 11,000 gold pieces. That's not something most parties are going to be getting at a low level. Now, for the leg augmentations, in order to get the augmentations for prosthetic legs, you have to have 2 prosthetic legs. So going through similar things, the wooden legs get the powerful legs and the spring legs augmentations. Powerful legs increases your carrying capacity by 50 pounds, and spring legs doubles your jump height. Plastic gets overclocked and spring legs. Overclocked increases your movement speed by 15 feet, and in addition, you ignore the flaw of losing your 15-foot movement speed, which is normally in place if you have a prosthetic leg. If you have a prosthetic leg without augmentations, you usually have this whole, your movement speed is 15 feet instead. Then the gem one gets overclocked legs, and then the gemstone equivalent one called Crystal Glide. What this allows you to do is you can reduce 100 feet when determining the distance for fall damage when you would take damage from a fall. It's a pretty good feature. That is pretty much it for our prosthetic limbs. I skipped over a few small things. They'll be in the book. Next we have Knocked Out, which is another short rule. This optional rule makes it easier for a creature to knock a surprised creature unconscious, which just makes sense. When a creature that is surprised takes damage from a melee attack that is equal to or greater than its Constitution score, it must succeed a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or fall unconscious for 1d10 minutes, or until it takes damage, or someone uses an action to shake or slap the unconscious creature awake. Oh, wow, that was weird. A creature that has a Constitution score of 20 must make a Constitution save if it is surprised and if it takes 20 damage or more from a melee attack. This is limited to melee attacks. Essentially saying if you get a high amount of damage against a creature, you can attempt to just hit them over the head with the back end of a weapon to try to knock them out instead of trying to just deal damage. I mean, you're also still doing damage, but instead of just trying to do damage to kill it, you can just knock it out real quick and get it out of the fight. Last one we're going to go over for now is the expanded creature sizes. This is very commonly used and kind of commonly out there for people wanting to do expanded creature sizes because sometimes extremely tiny creatures can be fun to mess with, or sometimes creatures larger than gargantuan exist. I mean, there already kind of is the Tarask and a few other creatures. Even though they're called gargantuan, they have in parentheses Titan, which is Titanic, which is just huge. Well, it's either Titan or Colossal. No, it's Titan. So, no, sorry. There is also the Colossal size. I forgot that does exist. The Colossal size exists in expanded books. And so I was interested in what's smaller than Tiny and what's larger than Colossal. So what I have is, for larger than Colossal is Titanic. Titanic is a size from 90 feet to 200 feet. A large range there, but you would call those things Titanic. They're massive. And then larger than that, which is as high as we went, is called mountainous. Mountainous creatures are 200 feet or more in their size. There is, I believe, only 2 creatures in this book that are mountainous. One of them is a dragon, and we will get to that soon, because this is a creature in our campaign that we have encountered a few times. We've never fought it because it is absurdly massive, at least in our campaign. In the book, it's smaller, but it's still of mountainous size. But this is still a humongous creature. We have seen it a few times, and we don't intend to fight it because it's generally kind of a peaceful dragon. Because it knows that it's just super powerful. If it moves too fast, bad things can happen. Next, we go on the smaller spectrum. So, getting smaller than tiny becomes micro creatures. Or I guess, no, wait, I just remember there's also a smaller category than tiny. It's called fine. Fine is like from 1 foot to 1 inch. They're tiny. Even though tiny is tiny and fine is smaller. You know what I mean. Smaller than fine is micro. Micro is the size from 1 inch to 1 millimeter. These are things you're not really going to see. I think we have one creature in our book that is micro because it is a parasite. These are, yet again, even though not all of them are going to be in our books, like next one after that is minuscule, which is 1 millimeter or less. That's not in our book. But these options are here with a chart, so you don't have to say like, well, what size is this thing, even though it is absolutely tiny because it's less than 1 millimeter in size. Well, there's at least a name for it in this book. That is all of our variant rules we're going to be going over for now. Going over for now. You're welcome for that. I'm going to keep it in. I'm not going to edit it out. Let you know that I misspeak a lot. Our next video, we are going to talk about some feats in this book, some epic boons, both in one video. And then after that, I feel like I might get to either some subclasses or spells or creatures. I don't know. I kind of want to jump between them all because I'm in a mood for all 3 of them right now, but I just don't know which one I want to do yet. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.